We're live. I'm sure we're live right now. Yeah, we certainly are. Hello, Kris Fade here, and honored, and I feel privileged to be able to do what we're doing here this afternoon from our ARN studios, Women in Entertainment and Media Breakout Session. It is International Women's Day, and I am so happy to be joined by Priti Malik and Jaki Ellenby. Thank you, ladies, for joining us here, and thank you for having me part of this. I feel honored, honestly.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Jaki.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, pleasure's all mine, actually, guys. So no matter where you are, obviously watching this, feel free to ask us any questions. We know we'll do a pop-up session very soon where I'll be able to see the questions coming in front of myself, and you'll be able to ask Jaki or Priti any questions that you guys, I guess you want to ask, whatever it is. That's what we're here for this afternoon. Let me give you a bit of a run-through of who we have, just in case you are unaware. Priti Malik, senior presenter at Virgin Radio 104.4, ARN. Dubai Holding Entertainment. Priti Malik, hello once again.
Hi.
Born and raised in New York City from Indian parents.
That's right.
Priti knew at an early age she wanted to be a broadcaster. You went to journalism school, right?
I did, yeah.
And then you, what age was it when you left New York City and you decided to come make it here in Dubai?
I was 22 years old when I got the job, and I joined Arabian Radio Network, and I've been here ever since.
And you're on a little radio show in the morning on Virgin.
It's called the Kris Fade Show.
Yeah, annoying host that you have there, I tell you, co-host. Jaki Ellenby, the Executive Director, Global Village, Dubai Holding Entertainment. It says, as Executive Director, Marketing at Global Village, Jaki is the leading events and communications for one of the region's top entertainment facilities, not only here in the UAE, but around the world. It is fantastic to have you here as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
When did you make the big move to Dubai, to the UAE?
The UAE, I've been here since 2014. So 8 years, I guess. Wow. Well, time flies when you're having fun.
Doesn't it? And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us. You move here, you're not sure.
Yeah.
You're ready for the adventure. And then the adventure begins and you never want to leave that adventure.
It's true.
There's something about it. International Women's Day today. It's a beautiful, beautiful day that we're celebrating. We talked about it on the radio this morning, Priti, about from a man's perspective, from a male's perspective, what do we feel? I said just understanding and really not having to have other men sometimes go, why is there an International Women's Day? Why isn't there an International Men's Day?
Yeah.
And that question alone is exactly why there's a Women's Day. And that's why we're creating awareness of it this afternoon. I want to go to each of you first. What does International Women's Day mean to you, Priti Malik?
I think you picked the word correctly, and that is awareness. I think today is exactly about that. If you've ever wondered why women are, creating marches, creating movements as to bring change to the workplace, to society, this is the day to kind of sit, think, and figure it out. It's a day to kind of look around your own surroundings and see, am I participating in this inequality, or am I helping to bring the change that needs to be made? Sure. I think that's what it's about.
Love it. Well said. Jaki, yourself, Women's Day, what does it mean to you?
I honestly, when I was asked to come and join this, I was kind of like, well, isn't it a shame that Women's Day still has to exist? It would be lovely if it was, a little passé.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we're seeing, I mean, the surveys and research is saying that the women's inequality will be around for a further century. It's going to take a century to have parity between the genders, which is astonishing and frightening. I think we're very lucky in this country that the leadership is taking it so seriously. In fact, in 2021, the UAE jumped a massive 48 ranks in the Gender Parity Index, World Economic Forum. So that's phenomenal. But I think it is still very, very valid and very relevant today, sadly.
Why do you think it's going to take another 100 years? You said that this survey said 100 years. Are we not? Is it us? Is it the men? Is it our fault?
I think it's probably cultural. I mean, changing culture takes a really long time. It's not just, you can't just decide, let's change culture. So I think moving that is, it's not about men, it's not about women, it's just about a whole ethos. And I think it's very hard for many women to put themselves out there I mean, I work in marketing, and finding women spokespeople as opposed to men spokespeople takes 4 times the energy. because, you know, women don't put themselves out there as much. I think that in many cultures, women are still the caregiver. It's hard to, you know, and sadly, many women in the world are under a lot of pressure to succeed today. That's kind of the other side of the coin, where young women, especially because we're getting more verbal about gender equality, that they're now in a situation where they're choosing between family and career, which is a terrible choice to have to make. So I think it's just a cultural thing, and I think it's going to take a long time. I think they're absolutely right, and I think some countries are doing it much quicker, and some countries are doing it slower. And I think that awareness, Priti's absolutely right. I think awareness and being conscious of this is a good start to making a change in the world.
Sure, great. Priti, over to you.
Yeah.
We grow obviously from New York City.
Yeah.
Went to journalism school, university, got your degree, came out here. Working in journalism in this industry, it can sometimes be male dominated, especially
100%.
you know, from TV to radio to newspapers. Had you faced any of that? Had you faced any of that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely when you work in broadcast journalism, which has to do a lot with TV sets and radio stations like this, you know, in college, I was a teaching assistant for a lot of the classes because I was just that involved and passionate about what I was learning and doing. And unfortunately, a lot of the students, male students, would kind of overlook me when it came to a technical question, because they'd be like, well, I'm just going to go find a male counterpart to ask the question.
Sure.
The thing is, though, they don't know. I'm the one who knows the information because I'm partially teaching this course. And obviously that was quite a long time ago. And I think we have progressed from that. But I face many instances, you know, a lot of times you'll walk into a room and some males, I don't want to say all men, but some men will overlook you as not being the one who has the knowledge in the room. And I think those are the little things. And I think that's what Jackie was talking about. Until those little pieces of our cultural norms don't change, we won't see the change on a broad spectrum.
Sure. Jackie, also in obviously in your position and the success that you've had in your entire career, you would have hit some doors. You probably would have had some guys and men looking around going, well, what's going on here? This, you know, I could have done that role. I should be doing that role. I mean, have you ever come across anything so like full on?
I think the funniest story that I have around that, I shouldn't say it's funny because maybe people won't find it funny, but I found it very funny, is when I was very young, I was an intern. And this was back in the days where projectors, you couldn't just plug them into the computer. So you had to have a graphics card, and you had to open the computer and take off the casing and slip in the card and then close it again. And I was doing sales, and I was going to IT teams and trying to sell them this product. And when I showed up with my screwdriver in hand and this graphics card and said, I'm about to open your computer, some of the comments and some of the shock on their faces was just phenomenal. Wow. So I think that was the most obvious. I think most of the time it's not quite that obvious. Yeah. And I think things have changed. I mean, in our industry, in entertainment, live entertainment, theme parks, it was very male dominated, but today, Walt Disney World, all 4 parks are run by women. Disneyland Paris president has been run by, the last 2 presidents have been women. So I think it's definitely changing around the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about from a male, when I see a woman in that sort of role, it makes me happy as well. Like, that's what I want to be able to say, hey, that's fantastic. As I was talking to you just off air, I'm just about to meet Sheryl Sandberg, who's the COO of Meta, of Facebook. She's in Dubai right now, and I am going to be so honored just to be in her presence as well, because she's a woman of power, but she's not just a woman of power. She's a human of power. Yeah. She's showing us what you can achieve, and I think that's super important. Let's talk Dubai Holding right now, and I don't want to make this like a hard sell, like how are we doing? Are we doing the right thing? But we are implementing, and again, just off the microphone, we were talking about this. We are implementing some certain strategies over the next few years as well to make sure that the equality is there, correct?
Yeah, I think what's really amazing about what Dubai Holding's doing right now, and there's a lot of really strong women behind the scenes actually implementing a lot of this stuff, is it's pragmatic, it's real. It's not just a whole bunch of rhetoric and words. They're actually putting in some very concrete steps to change the world and change the company. At Global Village, we're obviously known for being a guest-centric destination where people come and have fun.
Yeah.
But what fewer people know is we're also a great destination or a great place for entrepreneurs to start out. So we work obviously with big international companies that are coming to this region for the first time, like Ripley's, believe it or not. But we also work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And when we realized that only 19%, I mean, only, it's a good number, but 19% of our partners are women.
Yeah, it should be.
And it should be more,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I had a chat with our CEO and said, look, I don't think this is right. You know, we're the perfect location for people to start out, partly because we do, it's a short-term commitment because it's a season. It's a place where there's a lot of support, both practically and emotionally, because you need a lot of emotional support when you're an entrepreneur. Guaranteed footfall. So there's a lot of reasons why it's a really good place to start out. And we are committing, this is a scoop, we're committing to 30% of women entrepreneurial partners
That's great.
by season 30. And we're also going to be working with ARN, with Dubai Eye, to start a women's entrepreneurs club. So we're really excited about that. And you know, this is one of the concrete steps that we're taking to not just say, look, we're supporting women in the workplace. We're actually going to make a difference in the lives of women and help them set up their own businesses.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
That is fantastic. I love that. 30-30. There was two 30s in there. I saw that. I like that. There was definitely. I think that's what it is. It's not so much about just talking about it. It's actually putting it to practice and doing it, because there's one thing to say, hey, we're a company, whatever we are, and we're supporting it. But if you're actually not doing anything about it, you're really not adding to helping what we're trying to create here. A lot of questions are coming in. We do have some questions coming in. So feel free, if you're watching this from wherever you are, just find out where you put the questions. I'm sure it's easy. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's easy to write a question. If you want to direct a question to Jaki, to Priti, feel free to do so, or just a general question right now. You were talking about the entertainment side of things. Zara Ali says, hey, obviously I'm a female and I'm really wanting to get into the entertainment industry. Getting an internship, what's the best way of doing this as a female coming into the entertainment industry?
Listen, the best way, to my mind, is LinkedIn. Not promoting LinkedIn here, but I think reaching out to other professionals, getting your name out, putting your name forward. There's lots of companies that are taking interns.
Sure.
I know that Global Village takes interns, and we're not alone. And internships are a really great way of testing a business. My first internship was actually in an advertising agency. And I hated it. And so I didn't go into advertising agencies. So I think it's a really good time to test it. You know, entertainment's not an easy business. I'm sure you can attest to that as well.
Definitely not.
It's
rough.
Hard.
It's rough.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the hospitality business, right? Yeah. You're working when everyone else isn't. So,
exactly.
You know, it's not an easy job for families and stuff. So it's a really good way of testing it out. I would go for it.
Priti, for yourself, I mean, coming up the radio ranks, radio is a very, very difficult industry, and only a very small percentage of people make it where they can sustain a life and a career in radio. And your journey, how was it? And I know that we touched on you being obviously a female out of New York, but how was the whole process? Do you have any tips for anyone that's possibly watching this right now, wanting to get into the entertainment industry as a female?
I think I'm going to say this goes for whether you're a female or male. Just if you want to get into the entertainment industry, is you got to stay hungry. You got to stay motivated. You know, the entertainment industry, like Jaki said, there is no 9-to-5 schedule. It's literally running 24 hours. I remember internships where I was up at 2:00 in the morning and didn't go home until 6:00 in the evening, because that's just the way the day rolled. So if you're not prepared to put in those hours at your internships, or trying to go above and beyond and learn while you're on the job, it's not the place for you. It's going to swallow you up and just spit you out. It won't keep you. So I think for me, I started interning when I was 17. My high school had an internship program, so I was lucky enough to take advantage of that. And I just kept interning and kept looking for opportunities. You know, I took an extra course where I could. I asked, hey, are there any openings at this radio station? And I just kept asking. And I think today, with LinkedIn, social media, websites, the internet, you have so many different ways to access companies, to get to people, to find out if they have availabilities, that your net casts much wider than it did for us when we were trying to get into the business, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And just to add to what Priti's journey was, and Jackie, this is interesting how Priti sort of joined me on the show. Was Priti just had this ability of talking to people. So when we were in our old offices in Maktoum, she would just come by and just say hello, and we would talk, and we formed a relationship by just saying hello to each other. And then over the months, the hellos turned to how's your day, and then we sort of got to know each other. And then when a position opened up on my show that we needed someone, they wanted to look outside, and we were like, well, hold on, there is a woman right here that is exactly what we're looking for. And I think what you have the ability of, I feel like, again, both to males and females, sometimes we get into the workplace and we sort of have our shutters on and we don't really say hello to people. We just do our work and we get in and out. And it's sort of like, it's so important. And that was it right there.
Yeah.
Just you and I having a conversation changed not only my life, it changed her career as well, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I totally agree. And I think that's actually one area where a lot of women have a challenge, because I think a lot of women are a bit perhaps more timid than men and more nervous. And I mean, I'm an unbelievable introvert, which a lot of people don't figure out about me. And when I was starting out in my career, I had huge problems. Going to a network evening was torture for me.
Yeah.
So making those relationships is very hard. And what I would say is ask for help, because people love helping, whatever level they're at, and especially people who've got a lot of experience. I mean, for me, one of my greatest joys is helping people that are starting out. You know, I've been working for over 30 years. So just try, just reach out and say, give me a hand. I'm mentoring a wonderful student right now in London. Hopefully she's watching. If you are, hi, Julia. But she's reaching out and she's asking for help. And that's also something I think a lot of women, especially younger women, have trouble doing, because it's kind of like admitting you don't know.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of prove yourself so badly that you're like, I have to know everything. I have to know everything. And you don't. Nobody does.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, it is hard to admit what you don't know. But also, I think for women, it's really hard to admit what you do know. And for all the women who are a little bit afraid or shy to say, hey, but you know, I may be doing this job, but I also have accreditation, or I also know how to do this, this, and this. Don't hide that. Don't try to take that away. How is someone going to know? Be proud of your accomplishments, be proud of what you're able to do, and share that information, because that's how you're going to advance, you know?
You're absolutely right. I had a great Australian girl who used to work for me many years ago at Disney, and she was doing guest services. And so then she came to marketing, and I had her doing this job where she was literally cutting and pasting stuff. And that's all she was doing. And then by pure coincidence, I found out that this girl in Australia had been product manager for L'Oreal.
Wow.
Wow.
And she never told me. She never said, I can do more.
Yeah.
And she actually led the charge on bringing Disneyland Paris online.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
And she had an incredible career. And had she not have mentioned in a casual conversation, I think I asked her, what were you doing in Australia? And she said, I was, you know, head of product for L'Oreal. And I'm like, why are you cutting and pasting? So I absolutely think you're right there, Priti.
Thanks for joining us wherever you're watching this from, obviously around the world. Women in entertainment and media, women of tomorrow is what we're doing right now with Dubai Holding. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Kris Fade. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Priti Malik, as well, for hanging out with us. Questions are coming in. Don't forget, look for where you can write a question. You can ask Jackie or Priti a question. Feel free to do so right now. Got a two-part question with Nancy. Nancy says, all right, Priti and Jackie, thank you for this. How do you guys motivate yourself daily? Are you more motivated from the inside, or do you need pumping up from someone else sometimes? So motivation's a big thing, you know, no matter if you're male or female. But from where you women are coming from, Jackie, motivation for you, what gets you up? What keeps you wanting to keep going? You've got a high demanding job. There's a lot of stress involved as well, trying to manage the family or the husband or whatever it is. How do you do it? Where does that motivation come from? Advice.
I think you have to love your job and love what you do. And I love Global Village. Honestly, I early on in my career, a male boss, told me, if you get up 10 mornings in a row not the odd morning here and there, but 10 mornings in a row, not wanting to go to work, start looking, because you're not in the right job. And I've tried to always align to that. Hasn't always worked out, but most of the time, if I get up 10 mornings running, not wanting to go to work, I'm out of there. So I think the most important thing is to love your job.
Okay.
I'm fortunate. I love my team. I love the product. I love the values that we have. And I think that motivates me more than anything else. Do I occasionally need a pat on the back? Yes, absolutely. But that can come from anywhere, right?
Yeah. That's normal. We all need that.
But Priti, you need to say that your boss motivates you. I'm just giving you a tip here.
My boss motivates. No,
hold on. Priti wakes up at 3:45 in the morning.
I was going to say it's hard to find motivation at that time.
10 mornings in a row, waking up at 3:45.
I hate it every day, let me tell you. I hate waking up at 3:45. But passion for the job is super important. Otherwise, I wouldn't wake up at 3:45. Yeah. But I think the other thing that's really important is your tribe. Who's the community? Who's your network? Like I'm fortunate enough to work with my best friend. That's Kris, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That is so cute.
So, I think your network, whether it's at work or whether it's outside of work, if your network is with you, that's the motivation that I need. Sometimes I'll get a message from one of my friends who's heard something we did on the radio, said, that was amazing. Thanks for doing that. That's my motivation. Or on social media, we have such wonderful listeners who tune into our show every single day or follow our lives. And the messages that we get are just like, you know what? We do make a difference. No matter what your role is in whatever company, it's a trickle down effect. So I think your tribe and your network is super important as well.
Part 2 of the question is for me. It says, how do you eliminate unconscious bias? Any advice? I want someone to explain that question for me.
So I think unconscious bias, and Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll stop talking if you tell me to. But for me, unconscious bias is those little subtle cultural things that we accidentally say because it's ingrained into our minds for years and years and years. We don't recognize it as wrong because for so many years, it's been right. Is that how you would explain it?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I actually got in trouble with some female colleagues a few years ago because I tend to sort of say boys and girls. And so I said girls to them and they got very upset. And they said that is one of the ways that, women are kept down because they're referred to as girls. And I hadn't intended anything bad by that. It was just, we work in the entertainment business and we're just like chilling around but
they wanted women. They want to be referred to as women, as if you were saying to boys, you'd want to say men.
Exactly.
Is that the correlation?
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the question. Yeah, for me, I think it's more about. I'd like to say I grew up with 2 older sisters as well. I grew, and a lot of my whole. I get along better. Priti knows I have more female friends than I have male friends. I feel like there's something about a female that I can relate to more. And I think just having mutual respect for one another. I don't think it's about having that. If you're having to think about it, you're probably wrong. As in you're probably not in the right space. And you probably do have to take a step back and realize, okay, a second. So if you're going to an office place or you're going to meet some friends or whatever it is, and you have to tell yourself, all right, don't say anything offensive here. Don't say anything that's maybe sexist or not right. Well, then you probably are in a situation where you probably have to take a step back and have a look at yourself, And I think
you're really good at taking, if someone says, hey, that wasn't cool, which is very rare. I'm just going to put that out there. It's very rare that it happens. But I think amongst your friend circle, if someone comes up to you and says, hey, that wasn't cool. We all have to then just kind of take that on board and be like, okay, I understand. And we move on. That's how we're going to get rid of that unconscious bias.
But not creating what we're seeing now with a lot of it is a cancel culture where if someone did say something wrong, which was out of place, which may have been ignorant, out of their own ignorance, that we don't just demolish that person.
Or just unintentional.
Correct.
Just making a bad joke. And, that happens to all of us, right?
Intent is important. Intent is very important.
Yeah, and I think just understanding where it's come from, then maybe reflecting and saying, hey, that was not right because of X, Y, Z, educating the matter, educating the person. And then hopefully down the line, that person now understands it and says, okay, now I get it. Keep your questions coming in. You know where to do it now. Wherever you're watching us, thank you for hanging out with us again. More questions to come real soon. How about this one? Inspirational females. Any other women that famous or not famous that have inspired you, Jackie, to continue doing what you do?
I know this is really cliche, but I'm going to do it anyway. The person that's most inspired me is my mother, obviously.
Yeah,
right? So,
no. Yeah.
My father died when I was 6, and I was brought up by my grandmother and my mother, and she's just phenomenal. We moved house just after my father died into quite a big house, and of course with one salary. She was a teacher. She didn't have enough money to bring in the plumber and the electrician, and she just rolled her sleeve up and learned it. So she was, tiling and decorating, and
cool.
And when you're 6 and you watch your mother doing that, you're kind of like, okay, well, I can just do anything, right? So I think that she's been very inspirational. And in my career, probably not my first boss, but my first boss in entertainment was an incredible woman. Her name was Jodie. She actually grew to be the right hand of Michael Eisner, who at the time was president of Disney. And she was phenomenal, not just because she was super smart. She started as a dancer in the park.
Wow.
And she worked her way up through, the different areas, but she was just a great leader. And, we worked, that was for the opening of Disneyland Paris back in '92. And we worked day and night. I mean, there was no, going home, sometimes we went home, had a shower and came back. And she could see, and she had a big team, and she could see when somebody was flagging a bit, and she just knew exactly the right word to say. We were talking about motivation earlier, just to get you back on track and to get you believing again in what you were doing. And she was, she taught me everything about leadership and how to be a good leader. And I'm sure I don't come up to her ankle, but I try.
No, you do. You do.
Yeah.
You do. Priti?
I have to say my sister is a huge, huge inspiration for me. She's my older sister, 6 years older, does nothing in the entertainment industry. She works in medicine.
Yep.
But she has 3 kids, working full time. One of her kids has an autoimmune disorder. Just watching her balance her life, her patience, taking care of patients so well, taking care of her kids so well, especially through the pandemic. Ever since I was young, and I could think I would just always aspire to be her. Like I always just wanted to be like her. I wanted to dress like her. I wanted to be with her friends. She probably hated that. But now we're best friends for it, now we're close for it. So I think she's a huge inspiration for me. So that's my sister, Priya. And since you had mentioned someone professionally and you said your first boss, and now I'm thinking back to my first boss was female too at WPLJ, Angela. She looked at me, a 17-year-old kid in high school, walking into this radio station and gave me the world as an opportunity. She saw that I wanted to learn and I was eager, and she just kept giving me responsibility on top of responsibility on top of responsibility because she trusted me. She didn't look at me as a kid. She didn't look at me like that. And I'll always be grateful for that, because without that, I don't think I would have ended up here.
Yeah, well said. I think it's important that no matter what role you have in a business, always look at the guys around you, because there are opportunities everywhere around you. And sometimes, again, we all looking down here, we don't look like that to see what's happening around. A lot of questions coming in right now. Theodora says, guys, if someone does say something out of place, how do you correct them? Like, what do you do? Like, if someone was to say something that was possibly sexist or even racist, whatever it is, how do you correct them? Is there a right way of doing it? Now, I'm loud and obnoxious. I just call it straight out. Like, I'll just be like, that's, but is there a better way to do it than what I would do?
I think you got to call it out. But I think there's a way to call it out. You have to stay respectful. It's not about starting an argument.
Yeah. That's
not going to solve the problem. That's not going to change the way that person is thinking. Be calm, be collected, even though you may be infuriated. And it's happened. You've seen me get angry at a comment or whatever it is. And you have to be cool, calm, and collected and state the facts. Excuse me, that was not appropriate. This is why. And that's that. If they want to start a debate with you, you just keep spitting the facts. You just keep coming back with the facts. I think that's the way to do it.
I had a coach many years ago, and she used to say that the best way of disarming something like that, whatever it is, something that, you don't like the sound of, is just ask, what was your intention behind that comment?
Or interesting.
And
self-reflect.
So what you're doing by asking that question is getting somebody to reveal the intention, which oftentimes, as we said earlier, is not a bad intention.
Yeah.
And then you can confront it proportionally and say, look, just so you understand, I know your intention wasn't bad, but that can upset people because of X, Y, Z. So I think asking that question up front is a good way of disarming any kind of potential fight.
Great response. Jennifer says, hey, I've got a friend, she's in her 40s. Does she still have a chance to work in the entertainment and media industry? How does she start? She has had no experience. Is it too late?
I think that it depends in what part of entertainment. I actually knew a lady who was working at Disney. So she was in entertainment, but she was in HR and she wanted to be an actress. And I think she was 38 or something.
It's Julia Roberts. Is that who it is?
Yeah, you know her. My good friend Julia. And she quit everything and she now performs in the theatre in London. So I think that there's like 1,000 stories of people that have started late in life, but I think there's 1 million stories where that doesn't work.
Correct.
So I think it depends on what area you're in. If you're in marketing and you want to go into entertainment, you can't, because marketing is marketing. In my previous job in Abu Dhabi, I brought on board somebody who worked in schools. So, if you've got a transferable skill, I think it's very possible if you're in accounting or,
sure.
I think if you want to be an RJ, I'm guessing it might be difficult to kind of start afresh, but who knows?
You could still do it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it's about the commitment you can provide, because it's a very demanding job.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends where you are in life, right? Wouldn't you say?
I think just being realistic with yourself and knowing what you want. Like, there's ways of doing it. I still remember a friend of mine in Australia, a female, who was 36 and had never stepped into a radio studio, knew nothing about radio, but wanted to learn how to do the music on a radio station. And I recall her having a conversation with me, and she was older than me at the time. And I said, wow, you're really going to do this now? And she was a mother of 2. She said, it's just something I've had passion for. And, 12 years on, she's now the boss of the entire radio network. It's unbelievable to see the growth. And she was 36 at the time, mother of 2. So I think there is, as long as you set a realistic picture, and, backup plans are always good as well. You don't want to give up everything. Jennifer, you're saying that your friend is in her 40s. I'm not sure if she's working now, but, maybe not give up on everything and go for it. But that side hustle is pretty important. Those internships that we talk about as well with Global Village, for example, are super cool,
And I think also you've got to, a lot of people these days have these sort of 20-year career goals, and they kind of work their way forward. There's another way of doing it, which is to take opportunities. And when you take opportunities, you take risks. So if you want to jump, if you get the opportunity, jump, but don't think you're gonna, if you started in, I don't know, in technology and you want to go to something totally different, you're not going to enter at the same level. You've got to take the risk to step back in order to go forward again.
Correct.
And that's something that a lot of people, because I think of this pressure and, I'm this age and so I should have this position, and it doesn't matter. There are people, I've taken steps back in my career many times. When I joined Disney, I was a product manager in a technology company. I had a permanent job, great salary. And a friend of mine was working at Disney, said, you've got to come here. And I was like, okay. So I went to Disney and I took a temporary job at about 60% of my salary.
Wow.
And I've never looked back. So you have to be prepared to take those risks if you want to change career. But I think it's totally feasible depending on what area you're in.
International Women's Day, Women of Tomorrow. We're hanging out right now. This is fabulous. Jaki Ellenby, Executive Director, Global Village, Dubai Holding Entertainment, Priti Malik, Senior Radio Presenter at 104.4 Virgin Radio, on an average show with an average man. I tell you every single day, Priti.
Oh, please.
Here's one for you, though, Priti. Any current challenges you still face being a woman, a radio presenter? What do you think can help eliminate that? Are you facing anything in your role right now that you feel like, You know, is it me?
Yeah. His name is Chris. The other one's Rossi. Those are my two problems every day. No, I think the one thing, and I'm going to generalize this and in a way, and you, Jackie, you mentioned this earlier, and I think it's a really important point, is the family versus career. And I feel like we as women, and I feel it as well, and it's not done, again, the intent is not there for our counterparts to put this pressure, but I constantly feel like I'm choosing between family and work. And I'm hoping one day, rainbows and butterflies, where you don't have to pick anymore and it's all kind of integrated. Because I feel like for men, it's just expected that they're going to succeed in their career. And if they choose to not participate in the family, it's fine. But I feel like the expectation on me as a woman is like, I remember when I got married 8 years ago now, is like, okay, so when are you having kids? I'm like, but why? I want to advance my career first. Why do I have to have kids, but not, why aren't you asking about my career as much as you are about that? I feel like there's always that struggle. That's an internal struggle though.
That's really interesting you said that, because I've never had to think about, do I want to have kids or have my career? That's a bit of an eye-opener for a man. I think that's something, if you're a male and you're watching or listening, we never have to cross that. Do I continue with my career or do I have a child? We obviously we do both. We're gonna have a baby, but then we go to work. Like, that must be a really hard thing to have to think about, right?
Like, I work on the show with you. You know what I constantly think about is maternity leave.
Yeah.
I constantly think about, how am I going to take 3 months off the show?
Oh, Dubai Holding now is listening, and we're going to do it, okay?
No, but you think, you know, as a woman, you have to incorporate these things into your life. And I think our company does a great job with maternity leave, etc. But what I'm saying is, you know, we have to constantly make these choices. And at times, it seems unfair.
Okay.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's and I think it's as unfair thinking that, you know, pushing people to have to go the career route. I mean, I know an incredibly brilliant woman who had an MBA and a whole bunch of stuff, and she made a decision at some point when she had her kids that she didn't want to work anymore and she wanted to take a career break. And she said the backlash she got was unbelievable. And she said she went to dinner parties and nobody would talk to her anymore, because when they said, what do you do? She said, I'm a full-time mom. And they were like, okay. And then they would literally turn their head and talk to the other person. So it is sad that there is that kind of juxtaposition. But, you know, for sure in entertainment, it is hard. I mean, I often ask myself, I unfortunately couldn't have kids, but I often wonder, could I do the job that I'm doing if I had a young family? But there are many women who do. I mean, the lady you're going to be talking to later today has kids. And, you know, she's running Facebook. So, you know, there are super women that can have amazing jobs and amazing families.
And I also think it's the network, and it's also the partners. You'd hope that the husbands would come into play as well, and not just be like, kids are yours to look after, I'm off to work. It's a mutual thing that you've got to work together at, which I think is important. Takes me to another question that's just come here, actually directed to me, but I want to get your advice on this as well. It says, hey, Kris, as a father of 2 daughters, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, what do you do? What are you thinking about your young daughters as they enter into a workplace eventually? Now, my daughters are 12 and 10 and they have a few years, but I already think about it as well. And I'm trying to build little, you know, independent, strong humans. I'm not talking about strong women. I just want them to be strong humans. I try to in place into their lives now, working, saving money, career, but also love and empathy is so important. And I think that's something that I'm really enriching with my children. But, you know, I do think about it coming up into the workplace, you know, what more can I do as a father? Is there anything more than I can do that as father? I don't know. Priti, Jackie, help me. What can I do?
I'm badly placed. I think Priti's got to take this one.
But hold on. But even you as a child coming up, like what advice would you go back and tell your 12-year-old self? You know, I think that's something as well that I'd just love you to have a think about for a moment whilst we go to Priti.
So I think your parenting style reminds me a lot of my dad, which was he didn't treat us any differently because we were girls. We're 2 girls, you know. I didn't see any difference between me and my friends who were boys at that age.
Cool.
0 difference.
Cool.
We all played rough and tough. We all did everything. If I wanted to go into sports, I went to sports. If I wanted to dance, I went to dance. whatever it was. He never made me feel like I was different.
Sure.
And I think that's the way you treat obviously I'm close to your girls as well. And that's the way I see you treat them. And I think that's the best thing you can do, because you've given them the tools to head out into the world.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. At one point, Kris, yes, you will have to let go.
Yeah, but I'll let them go, and they'll go to Global Village, and they'll do an internship with you. All right,
Deal.
No, but like, is there anything that you'd go back to your 18-year-old self and want to just let you know, like, hey, the world's big and mean out there, but you're going to do it? Like, is there any advice that you'd want to give yourself as a younger child?
I think you said it very well, Priti. I mean, I grew up with 4 brothers, and I was treated exactly the same as the 4 brothers, which is, why most of my friends are probably male.
Yeah.
And, I was never my mother never treated any of us differently. We all had to do the washing up. We all had to do the same chores, and we all had to do. So I didn't, growing up, it was a little bit of a shock once I hit the workplace that there is
a difference,
because I didn't feel that growing up at all. And I think that's the best thing you can do, because I think if you ingrain that until they're 18, even if they see gender disparity when they grow up, they will not think that is normal. They will think, oh, that's not normal. And that's how you change the world.
Sure, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. We're going to be wrapping it up in a few minutes here. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone. If there's any last minute questions, try to get them in right now, because we are going to be wrapping up in about 4 to 5 minutes. Again, Women in Entertainment and Media here, International Women's Day, Dubai Holding. Great to have Priti and Jaki with us. My name's Kris. Priti, I want to leave it with you as well as we wrap this up. There's a lot of people watching, and this will be, possibly put up on YouTube or wherever it goes, who may come across this in years to come or tomorrow. What message do you want to give out on International Women's Day? I want to sort of end it the way that we started the conversation.
I think I'll just kind of elaborate a little bit more on what we started with, and that is be proud of yourself, be proud of your accomplishments. I say something, wear that crown proudly, because only you know what you've gone through to reach to where you have been. And it's okay to share that. There's a fine line between being arrogant and confident, and always, be on that confident line. Don't be afraid to do that. And I think us as women realize that there's a network and a community of people wherever you go that will support you. Reach out for that. And my wish for International Women's Day is just that. Just let's be proud of the accomplishments we have as women, and just keep pushing forward. Well
said, Priti Malik. Thank you. Jaki, your thoughts as we ended the sort of way that we started. No, honest, what again, someone could be watching this in years to come or tomorrow. Like, what message would you want to give them?
I think that, my message is probably for women and men, and that whatever you're doing and whatever you decide to do, it's okay. And you should be proud of that. And, whether it's becoming a CEO millionaire, or whether it's bringing up kids, whether you're male or female, it's good. And you have to, every day do something that you love, because as you get older, you realize that you can waste a lot of time doing stuff that you don't love, and being with people that you don't love. And I think that, if there's been a lot of research done in old people's homes, and I don't know whether you've heard this, but people ask, what do you regret? And they never say stuff that they did. They only ever say, I wish I'd done X, Y, Z. I wish I'd gone to this country, or I'd wish I'd had kids, or I wish I'd, taken a chance and started my own company. And so take a chance.
Take the risk.
And try it out. And if it doesn't work, it's okay.
Yeah.
And, and enjoy that and learn from that. And that's what I would say that is, perhaps not quite as inspirational as what you said, Priti.
No,
but I think
it was.
That people live their lives and not other people's lives, and not feel the pressure of other people's lives.
Yes.
Live your own life, male or female.
Love that.
So well said. Again, I think Dubai Holding, lucky to have you two here this afternoon. I'm lucky to be able to share the room with you guys. Priti Malik, senior presenter, Virgin Radio 104.4, ARN, Dubai Holding Entertainment, and of course, Jaki Ellenby, Executive Director, Global Village, Dubai Holding Entertainment. Again, Women of Tomorrow, thank you so much for joining us, no matter where you've been joining us. We want to appreciate a lot of the questions that came through this afternoon. And on International Women's Day, again, I want to say thank you to Priti Malik.
Thank you, Kris.
Jaki, thank you as well so much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
All right, we'll catch you, hopefully not this time next year, but sooner than that. The three of us.
Yeah.
Take care. Yalla bye. Thank you.